Welcome back to the Daily Taoist with Will S. Today I would like to talk about verse 16 of the Tao Te Ching. I think this will be an interesting one. The Tao Te Ching was written around 2,500 years ago by a man named Lao-Tzu. It is one of the oldest texts in existence and certainly one of the wisest. Its wisdom is timeless and its message is as relevant and important now as it was back then, if not more so. It is vital that we learn to come back into balance with the natural world, to live in a more harmonious and selfless way, and the Tao Te Ching beautifully instructs us in bringing ourselves and our lives into alignment with the Tao. Verse 16. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each being in the universe returns to the common source, to what it is and what it is to be. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. Immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. Here we are urged to empty our mind of all thoughts and be aware of the turmoil around us, and to realize something that most people don't readily like to admit, that like it or not, we're all on a return trip. Returning is the nature of the Tao. A wave rises above the surface of the water, but ultimately return to that which it came from. So too it is with us. Lao-Tzu calls this wellspring from all life, which all life arises, the source. Although we appear to be separate beings cut off from our source, the truth is we shall all return to that source, whether by physical death or by consciously aligning ourselves with it while we are still alive. This is called dying while we are alive, or dying before we die. It allows us to consciously realize what we truly are. Many spiritual teachers over the centuries have highlighted this as the essence of spiritual awakening, simply to know who and what we are. Until we realize that from which we came, our lives are difficult and we stumble around in fear and sorrow. But when we realize where we came from, which is inseparable from what we are, we reach a state of peace with life. We naturally become tolerant, kind-hearted, disinterested, or detached, which simply means not unduly caught up in the transient comings and goings of life, and even amused by life. In short, we are able to deal with whatever life throws our way because we are no longer caught up in the illusion that we are separate beings, disconnected from the whole, having to fight to survive in a hostile universe. We no longer place under undue emphasis on which is but a transient dream, ever morphing and shifting, and because we know that what we are at the deepest level, we no longer fear death. Because we no longer fear death, we no longer fear life, which is really a far more tragic and crippling fear. Some call this the state of being enlightened. Compliments to Rory at dailydaoblogspot.com. My thoughts on this. You are a spiritual being or a celestial being having a human experience. So, as I like to say, we're all just stardust that has coalesced for this period of time in this finite life that we are living. Stoicism maybe has this a little backwards, or like it's a little contrite. They say memento mori, or this shall and you shall die, or something to that effect. I like this a little bit better. It's a little more eloquent. The other thing that I've been thinking about here is spiritual awakening could also be known as having an ego death. Ego death is, if you have not experienced ego death, it's hard to describe in words. It's like you are everything and nothing at the same time. And it's probably the most pure state of being you will ever experience in your entire life. All right, well, happy Thursday, wherever you are in the world. Have yourself a great and prosperous day. And keep in mind, when you are immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. Namaste, Will S.